Hello friends. In the start of the movie, Aiden apologizes to the camera saying that he tried and then prepares to give up. All of this began 42 days ago when Aiden wakes up. The woman he spent the night with is already gone. He goes to the bathroom to wash up and finds a note from his parents with a check reminding him to pay the rent. He hears screams and banging in the hallway but thinks it's just the neighbors. When he turns on the television, he is met with the emergency broadcast system. Suddenly sirens and screams are heard in the streets. Aiden runs to his balcony and sees a smoking helicopter crash into a building. People are running everywhere and a lost girl calls for help. But suddenly she and a man jump on an elderly person to kill them. After a military plane flies by, a horrified Aiden runs back inside. At the same time, his neighbor Brandon enters the apartment. He says that his roommate, whom he has known his whole life, suddenly attacked him. On TV, a man explains that a new virus is loose and turns people into flesh-eating zombies. It is transmitted through blood, mainly by bites and scratches. Before the man can say more, the broadcast cuts out. Realizing that Brandon was injured by his roommate, Aiden grabs a knife to defend himself as people continue to scream and bang on the doors in the hallway. Brandon's eyes begin to bleed and his face starts to transform. Aiden forces him out and has to rush to push the door shut as Brandon finally goes crazy trying to get to him to attack him. After much effort, Aiden manages to lock the door and looks through the peephole, horrified to see people eating each other in the hallway. On television, they explain that the virus is taking over the world and tell people to stay home. Aiden starts drinking while trying to call his family, but the phone lines are down. He finally receives a bunch of delayed text messages from his father saying that he and his mother were going to visit him, but that they didn't know anything about his sister. However, another message contains an apology, because they couldn't make it, and asks him to stay alive. The last message is from his mother asking him to call them. But when he tries, the lines are still down. Aiden collapses and spends most of the day crying while watching the world. Later he decides to start counting the days of the pandemic, and writes reminders on sticky notes. He can't stop thinking about his father and the time they spent together. On the 6th day, Aiden starts moving things around the house, desperate for a change. Experts on television talk about the effects the quarantine is having on people's brains. On the 7th day, he tries to record a video, but people are still screaming and attacking each other in the hallway, making terrifying noises that ruin the moment. Aiden tries to explain how those constant noises have affected him, but ends up closing the laptop. On day 14, Aiden covers all the windows so he can't see the state of the city, but he doesn't turn off the news. The experts have named the zombies screamers, and explain that they repeat the last words they said before transforming. Aiden continues to drink, and every time someone knocks on his door he ignores them. On day 16, Aiden discovers he has no water and throws things in frustration. He knows he should go out to get supplies or try to find his family, but he doesn't dare because he can still hear people dying outside. Aiden reads about sensory deprivation and how it can make people hallucinate, so he tries to keep himself busy by playing the guitar or exercising. However, he is so frustrated that he ends up breaking a mirror. One night he hears noises in the bathroom and readies his bat, but he immediately runs to hide upon discovering that a screamer has invaded his apartment through the vents. The woman keeps repeating "no" as she checks the place. So Aiden waits for the right moment to sneak up behind her and hit her with his bat. The screamer faints and Aiden has to deal with the fact that he has killed a person. After throwing the body off the balcony, he places a surfboard in the bathroom opening to block it. On the 42nd day, Aiden records another log, still hearing screams outside. He explains that he's losing his mind and is terrified to go out. In 3 days he will start to starve, so he needs provisions. Suddenly his phone rings and Aiden listens to a voicemail from his parents. They were locked in their office and couldn't get in touch with him or his sister. The message is cut off when a screamer finds and kills the couple. Hearing his parents' death triggers Aiden's biggest emotional breakdown yet. Desperate for a way out, he grabs his bat and leaves the apartment. finding Brandon on the floor repeating, "I'm fine." Aiden prepares to attack him but can't. At that moment a group of screamers tries to get him. So he moves quickly to dodge them and runs as fast as he can. Since the screamers are blocking the way, Aiden goes down the stairs. He waits for some to pass before continuing down the hallway, pushing aside anyone who tries to attack him, and finally reaches the other stairs, which he climbs to return to his apartment. He quickly shoves his fridge to block the main door. Looking through the peephole, he sees the screamers looking for him. Moments later, Aiden hears a loud noise and the power in his apartment goes out. Looking out the window, he discovers that the entire city has lost power. He spends the night dreaming of his family and wakes up in the morning to the sounds of screamers in the hallway. Tired of it all, Aiden decides to give up. However, he stops the process when he notices a woman in an apartment across the courtyard is still healthy. Then Aiden records his last log because his battery is running out, saying that he met a girl. He shaves his beard and makes a plan to contact her, hoping he can help her. When he goes out onto the balcony, he sees that there are also screamers in her building and he hides immediately. Still determined to make contact, he writes messages on signs that he puts in the window and finally she sees him too. He finds out her name is Eva, that she is alone, and that she doesn't have many supplies. She has to close the curtains upon hearing screamers approach, but agrees to talk to him later. That night it starts to rain, so Aiden sets out several pots to collect water before taking a shower and shaving, unaware that Eva is watching him for a few seconds. The next day Aiden and Eva communicate with signals to make a plan. They connect their balconies with a rope and he sends her some bottles of water. At that moment, a screamer starts climbing Eva's building. But just as it's about to reach her, Aiden throws a glass bottle at its head and starts hitting the railing to get its attention. That screamer starts climbing Aiden's building while another one bangs on his door so hard that the fridge begins to move. Eva also throws objects, but Aiden keeps the screamer's attention on him until it reaches his balcony. Then Aiden goes back inside and locks the balcony door before running to push the fridge against the entrance. The screamer outside starts hitting the window to break it, but its injury causes it to collapse. So Aiden takes the opportunity to run out and hit it with a bat. Moments later, Aiden packs a backpack and leaves the apartment to get the keys from Brandon's body. Screamers appear in the hallway, so Aiden drops to the ground to pretend he's dead until they leave. He then enters Brandon's apartment, closing the door just before the screamers reach him. Inside, there are bloodstains on the walls and a body on the bed. Aiden gathers the few provisions he finds and is surprised to find climbing gear, though the axe is missing. He checks the room and finds it under the bed, but at that moment a screamer comes out of the bathroom. Aiden pushes it against a mirror and tries to flee, but the screamer throws him against the wall. Grabbing a lamp, Aiden hits it several times to get it off him and falls onto the bed, where the body also starts to move. The screamer lunges at him and fails to bite him because of his clothes, which gives Aiden time to grab the axe and finally kill it. After killing the other screamer on the bed, Aiden gathers all the climbing gear and tries to leave, but the hallway is full of screamers. He carefully slips by and manages to dodge one at the last second to return to his apartment, where he immediately takes off all his dirty clothes. Upon checking the climbing gear, he is thrilled to find 2 walkie-talkies. Then Aiden ties some bed sheets to his balcony to descend and safely reaches the ground, where he finds eaten bodies. There are also screamers running around, so Aiden hides and quickly throws a walkie-talkie onto Eva's balcony before running back up to his apartment. The next morning Eva contacts Aiden and they are both excited to finally be able to talk. They spend the rest of the day chatting about random things. Slowly regaining hope, Aiden decides to look for more supplies, this time going out through the air vents. He gets scared by a zombified face, but it was just a dead screamer. He manages to get into another apartment's bathroom and notices blood on the edge of the bathtub. But when he pulls back the curtains, he finds it empty. He then checks every room and after making sure he's alone, He opens the closet and luckily finds a lot of food. Aiden has a snack before calling Eva to share the news with so much enthusiasm that he's already making plans to escape and reunite with their families. Eva explains that there are screamers on her wall every day and she's sick of it. So she built a rope of sheets like Aiden's and wants to move into his apartment. Things get tense when Aiden finds the fridge against the main door, which means someone lives there. He checks a door he hadn't seen before and discovers a hole in the wall. Suddenly Edward appears in the kitchen with a makeshift weapon he made. He lowers it after confirming Aiden is not a screamer and explains that he came from another apartment through the hole a few weeks ago. The owner took his own life in the bathtub and Edward threw the body into the hallway. The old man shares some meat and lets Aiden take food from the closet. They talk about the situation and philosophies about loneliness and the need to kill other humans to survive. When Aiden turns around to get more food, Edward hits him with his cane to knock him unconscious. Minutes later, Aiden wakes up in Edward's room where he keeps his infected wife. Edward wants to use him as zombie food, but his wife wouldn't attack an unconscious body, so he tied Aiden up to wait for him to wake up. He wants Aiden to take a drug so he won't feel pain, and Aiden suspects he already did that to his neighbor. However, Edward swears he really found the man dead in the bathtub, but his wife didn't touch him, so he had to feed her their 2 dogs. Suddenly Eva screams over the walkie-talkie and Edward moves to check the noise. Aiden struggles against the bed until he breaks it and frees himself. He then drags Edward back into the room until he becomes his wife's dinner. When he grabs the walkie-talkie, Eva tells him that screamers have entered her home. Aiden runs out of the apartment and the screamers chase him down the hallway. He can't get into his own place because of the fridge, so he ducks into Brandon's. He looks outside and sees Eva hiding on her balcony while screamers pound on the glass doors. Very carefully, Aiden jumps from Brandon's balcony to his own and can now use the sheets to climb down. However, the sheets slip and he falls. Landing painfully on a chair, the noise attracts the attention of a screamer, which quickly chases him. Aiden finds a gun next to a corpse and takes it, shooting the man in the head. As other screamers jump from different balconies, he shoots another one to clear a path. Eva throws down her sheets, and Aiden starts to climb. But a screamer is also climbing right behind him. Aiden has no choice but to jump to another balcony and cut the sheets, making the screamer fall. Now Eva climbs down to meet Aiden on the floor below. With a tight hug, the couple enters the apartment. Screamers manage to get in when they open the door, but they ignore them and quickly lock it, leaving the creatures trapped inside. There are more monsters in the hallway, so they run toward the stairs. Aiden breaks the door handle with his cane. On the stairs, they find a zombified man who can barely move. They decide to spare him and go up to the next floor. When they open the next door, 2 screamers immediately push Aiden against the wall. Eva reacts fast and throws one down the stairs. But unfortunately, Aiden and the other creature also fall. The screamer tries to bite Aiden until Eva arrives and kills it with an axe. The couple takes to the hallway and runs as fast as they can, hitting and pushing all the screamers that try to attack them. This hallway connects both buildings, and Eva manages to get into Aiden's apartment. But Aiden is suddenly attacked by the same screamer that had been outside his door from the beginning. That man tries to grab Aiden, but he manages to throw him back and finally kill him. Afterward, Aiden rushes into the apartment and starts taking off his clothes, fearing he was bitten. He walks out to the balcony, ready to give up. But when he removes his last shirt, he realizes he has no wounds. He wasn't bitten. There's no time to celebrate. Screamers are already banging at the door. So the couple runs to push the fridge against it, promising to survive together.